Welcome to Fuel Your Drive. Guys, welcome to Fuel Your Drive. I am your host, Josh York, and I told you I'm going to be bringing a lot more guests on, and I got a great guest for you today. This guy is a complete rock star, and my social media company, my team that's incredible, also actually works with this person who we're going to be bringing on. He has built an incredible business, helps a lot of people, and as you know, I like helping people. So we're going to get into kind of how he came up with the idea, how he started it, and how he's continuing to thrive and change people's lives. So we are bringing on Vince. Vince, congratulations on all your success. Welcome to the show. Let's get rocking and rolling. So, give us the overview. Where are you? How did you start? And let's kind of walk through the story.
No, appreciate you having me on. I'm a big follower of your show, so I listen to all the episodes. So I appreciate it so much. Okay, so it's very funny how I started. I was a washed-up meathead college football player that played at Temple University, and I was never into the business side of things. I was really always into fitness and training, and I was always more, into building my body than anything else. And so I moved from Philly to San Diego, which is a good kind of shift in location, right? And I got a job at a gym in San Diego as a personal trainer, and I just fell in love with it. I started training kids and sports, and we ended up the gym I was working at was the personal trainer for LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees, and so I started training like a lot of NFL players, and I kind of got the whole gamut of working with housewives, of working with pro athletes, of working with young kids, and everything like that. And so that's kind of how I got my start, was just working for somebody else at a gym. But I always knew I wanted to open my own business, right? I was like, hey, I'm gonna need to feed a family someday, and I can't do this as an employee. I got to go off on my own. And so the funny thing is, and I think this is so relative to your audience, I moved back to New Jersey and I loaded all my equipment. And you didn't know I was going to tell a story before this, right? I loaded all my equipment into my truck. I had a 2000, I think, 5 Toyota Tacoma, hatchback on it, and I put all my sleds and plates and kettlebells and dumbbells in my truck. And I drove to people's homes and I trained them in their homes. And I went to fields. I trained a lot of athletes. So I would drive to fields and I would drive my truck onto the field, bring all the equipment out, spread it all over the track. And I got chased off the field so many different times from these ADs and different coaches. Like, what are you doing here? So that's kind of how I got started. I kind of had all these different places I was training people. It was all based out of my truck. And I did that for probably a full year. I did that. And then I ended up opening my first gym in, I think, 2008. And again, started with mostly youth athletes, but then you opened an adult section of the business. And then, we kind of got started from there. I started, had that gym from 2008 till we still own it today. It's run by different people. I have a guy that runs the gym for me, so most of my time is spent helping other gym owners. But yeah, we started in '08. We're still going today. And we had some challenges in the beginning, but we ended up turning some of things around. And I could talk about some of the specific challenges, but we ended up turning things around, and I started getting calls from other gym owners that were like, "Hey, dude, I hear you're doing okay. How can you help me?" And so I created a whole new company on coaching other gym owners, probably very similar to your company and how you coach the franchisees to grow their companies and everything. So I do that for brick and mortar gym owners. So that's the company I spend most of my time. And I also own a marketing agency where we do digital, we do build websites and run ads. And I'm really into the marketing side of things as well. So that's kind of the overarching story of kind of where you get. But most of my time today is spent helping gym owners grow their companies.
That's fantastic. I love it. So obviously from, taking your equipment in your truck to going onto the field, did you know you were going to open a gym? Was that your vision? Did you have a vision? Were you not sure? Walk us through that. Because I feel like, a lot of our listeners that are listening into this, and I talk about this all the time. It comes down to action, right? Like everyone's overthinking everything and thinking things have to be perfect and it's got to be, a beautiful day out and the birds are chirping and it's 72. And then I start. So like, walk us through what that was like, but also walk us through like those voices that are talking in your head, right? Because I know you had voices talking in your head like, oh, is this going to work? Should I do this? Is the right thing? Because people need to understand as long as you just start and you just, believe in yourself, that's really all you need. The rest will follow as long as you don't quit and you work hard. So maybe walk us through that, Vince.
So I think ignorance is really bliss. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into, right? I was a trainer. I love training people. And I did have the vision of wanting to have my own gym. I kind of had that in San Diego. I was like, I want to do this myself someday. And my wife, actually, I met my wife, was a Pilates instructor at the gym. And so she
Uh-huh.
was a Pilates instructor. I was a trainer and was like, we're going to do this together. So we were in grad school together and we were like drawing up plans for gyms and stuff. So it was in the cards for me in the
Okay.
very beginning. But as I said, like I did not know what it was going to take to run my own business. I was a really good trainer and I knew how to get results with people, but I did not know how to run a business. And I remember, and this is kind of going back to the story of some of the challenges that I had, right?
Yep.
Probably about a year into owning the gym, where we took on a lease, a big building, and a lot of money a month and everything like that, risk and everything. So I did well in the beginning, and then I started to run into cash flow issues. And I remember getting to the point where I had run out of money. And my dad was a financial advisor. And I sat down and I'm like, Dad, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't think this is for me. I think I should probably just come work for you. And this was like the nightmare conversation for me, right? To have to go and admit failure to your dad. Because I told him I
Yeah.
was going to be a personal trainer. He kind of like patted me on the head and smiled. And it's like, oh, hopefully you learn some business skills. And basically, everything he said probably pretty much happened, right? So I had no idea how to manage money. I had no idea how to price my services. I had no idea how to market. And I had no idea, about paying taxes and all of this stuff. So I ran into this cash flow issue because I had to pay a big tax bill and I literally had no money. And so I go to my dad and I'm like ready to throw in the towel and quitting. And he basically said, you've proved that you can be a good coach and a good trainer. You just haven't proved that you know how to run a business yet. And so he wasn't ready to let me quit, but he was telling me that what I needed to do. He's like, you need to go out and you need to understand business and learn business. And that was kind of like my launching point for me of what I traded in all the training books for the business books. I started reading books like the E-Myth and like all the books that you talk about on your podcast and the things like that you always talk about. That's what I started to do. And I ran into a guy named Dan Kennedy who basically he's probably known as the world's greatest marketer today, right? All the people that all the great marketers today, they were birthed by Dan Kennedy. Like this guy's the godfather, right? And so I started reading all of his books and I got really into marketing and sales and client acquisition and all these things. And I just kind of fell in love with it. Like I really, really just like, I love this business side, the thinking of this side. And I really educated myself into success. Like I'm self-taught. Like I have a master's degree, but it's in some like biomechanics type crap. It's like nothing to help you with the business, right? But I'm 100% self-taught. Everything that I often tell my clients who some of these guys pay a lot of money every month to work with me. And I tell them, I was like, did any of you look up my credentials before you hired me? And they kind of like shake their head like, no. And I was like, good, because I don't have any at all credentials. The only thing I have is a track record of successful business and a shit ton of education and books and things under my belt that I can say that I can help you with. So I think that's really what kind of the mindset shift for me was like, yes, I did know what I wanted. I did not know what it took.
Yep.
And I
Yep. No,
did
no one,
not know it was
no
going to
one.
be as hard as it was.
Yeah. I always tell people it's going to be 7,000, maybe 100,000 times harder than you think it's going to be. And it's going to take much longer than you think it's going to be, than you think it's going to take because it's not easy. It's easy to say. It's not easy to do.
For
Um,
sure.
so throughout this journey, obviously, okay, cash flow, very common issue. What other kind of issues did you have? Like, I like your business model because I don't know how big your team is, but you're helping other gym owners, which is fantastic. Obviously, you're making them successful. So, what other kind of issues have you run into? Maybe I don't know, maybe share another one.
Yeah. So probably a big one, for us, and again, this is what I said, I learned a lot about it, was the consistent lead generation. And I think that, we sometimes get lucky in that we get this windfall of customers because like just it fell our way that day.
Yep.
And then we have these inconsistencies, right? We have this time period where we got a bunch of clients, and then we have this time period where we got like no clients at all. And so what I found is that like we had to create systems around creating a predictable and reliable flow of potential leads of new people. Because the one guarantee in business is that you're going to lose clients. Like there's not a gym or an in-home trainer in the world that's kept every one of their clients for the entire time they've been in business. I would think the attrition rate for you guys is probably less because you're going into their homes and one. So I would think you probably would have strong attritions. But even in that case, there's definitely still turnover, right? And so you
Always.
always want to have that steady flow. So that was a big challenge. And it wasn't really until I learned the foundational basics of marketing, which is who's the person, right? Who's the person that you're trying to attract? What's the differentiators that you've got? Like, what are the things that you can communicate how you're different? And obviously, you guys have a huge one, in that you guys are coming into people's homes, right? And the third thing is, what are all the ways that you get the message out there? So it's market, it's differentiation and message, right? And then it's media, like how you're getting the word out there. And I found that like every marketing problem kind of lies within one of those three. You're either not getting the message out, you're either targeting the wrong people, you're not saying the right things that are differentiating you that. And it wasn't until because a lot of times people try to fix marketing issues with tactics. They try to say, "Oh, let me get that Facebook ad up, or let me get that flyer in place, or let me stick that thing in the mail." And yes, those things do work, but they got to be part of some type of overall strategy, right? What's the plan of success that you have for your marketing? And I found that your strategy is engulfed into those three things. You're targeting the right people. You're saying the right things that allow people to be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's for me. I definitely want to." And it's funny because I'm doing some in-home massage right now where I got a guy coming to my house and he's doing massage for me. And it's awesome. Like I love it. Like I love the fact that like I can get done with a massage at 9:30 at night and I can just
Very
go
good.
upstairs and go right to bed. Right. And then he's got to do the traveling and go home. And I've never had that before. And I'm like, wow, this is like really, really awesome. I really like it. That's a message that I would want to hear, right? That I could go and I could get my massage and then I can go to bed in 30 minutes after I get my massage. That should be said in the message because it's something that's impactful to me. And then that media piece is, where are your customers? Like, where do they hang out? Are they, hanging out on social media? Are they hanging out in networking groups? It's just like identify where they are. And I hear a lot of stuff on, I made a lot of money in the last few years on newspaper ads. Like, and I don't know if like people think like people don't read the newspaper, but they do. And so like finding some of these, so it's no media is necessarily dead, if you will. It just matters, are your customers there? Are there eyeballs
Yep.
on that media? And then can you actually say things in the media to get them to respond? So that was the big
Yep.
problem, Josh. The big problem was no consistent lead flow in my business. And once I fixed that problem, it kind of, because it's like the top of the funnel, right? If there's not enough leads coming in the door, then you're not going to make enough sales. If there's not enough sales being made, then you're not going to hit your customer goal. And if there's not hitting your customer goal, you're not going to make the money that you want. So it's kind of like the top of the funnel. So you got to fix the top of the funnel.
100%. It's funny you talk about that because we had that issue as well because there was never, really search demand for, you get like, like someone from the local gym that would, on the side go to someone's house or office or wherever place of worship, so on and so forth. But there was not enough demand for that in regards to, education where people knew that the service actually existed. So we suffered with issues with that for years,
Mm,
so really, really valuable. And Very, very good point. Don't waste your money on just throwing out there, hoping you're going to get clients. Make sure you're targeting the right people,
Yep.
going after those right people, and really focus on, who is that avatar, right? Like who's your client, and understand that. And something else, I'm sure you do this as well. We've gotten very obsessed with data, like, years ago. Like, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
obsessed with data. Like, we are analyzing data, like, usually, like, every month. Like, and it's constantly changing, 70% female, 30%. Now it goes 60-40. Now it's 50-50. How many businesses are we working with? How many homes are we training? So, like, you also got to be very, very obsessed with data because, numbers don't lie, and
I
you got to
love it.
always be,
Yeah.
always got to be honest with yourself. But, so, and how big is your company today? Like, how many people you help? Who do you usually help? Like, someone could be listening to this and be like, man, I got a gym. I would love to hire Vince. Like, walk us through that.
Yeah. So we have clients globally. We have people all over the world. We have clients in Europe. We have clients in Canada. We have clients in Mexico. A majority are in the U.S., but we kind of have a pretty specific niche. We have about 150 gyms in our group. It's a mastermind group, is what we call it, and they many of them do some form of personal training, with the large majority doing small group training, which is training anywhere from 4 to 6 people at one time. So I would say we have some gyms doing large group. We have some gyms doing one-on-one. And this is a great example of what I was talking about. Like, we found a specific target market that resonated with the stuff that I was teaching. And that
Yeah.
was gyms, brick and mortar, that are doing small group personal training in groups of 4 to 6 people and charging a premium for it. And majority of the people in our group are exactly that profile. And it's because we targeted that exact profile, like, in the marketing. So that's kind of what we do is we help those types of gyms, um, basically on everything related to the business side. Right. So many of them have marketing and sales problems. Many of them have pricing problems. They don't have the courage to raise the prices, as I'm sure you talk about that with your guys and everything like that.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about hiring staff and trainers and where to find trainers and how to lead and manage them. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, that is the driver of your retention, right? If your trainers are not good, your retention's going to be bad. Right. So you got to have a process in place to train them and to make them better. Like, every week, as an owner of your business, you should be like, what am I doing to make the people that work for me better? So that's kind of the big thing. That's kind of who we work with. That's the types of stuff that we help them do. But at the end of the day, it's all about helping business owners live better lives. Like, that's kind of what I'm in it for. It sounds like exactly what you're in it for, is that we want to help people. Yeah, we want to help them make more money, but we want to give them more security. We want to have them more freedom. I don't want the gym owner that's just stressed out all the time. I want the gym owner that's able to get away, go to their kids' games, take their kids to jiu-jitsu, and do the things that they want to do in their life, and not become a slave to the business. And that becomes with learning some business knowledge and some business acumen. And that's kind of everything that we teach them. To your point on data, um, we're huge on data too. So I'd love to hear you say that. And I think one of the things that we obsess over are these kind of leading indicators, right? Because, like, obviously, this, like, when you look at a profit and loss statement, you're looking at the score of the game, and it's the final score. You can't change the result of the game. And so we have people always look at the data that are the leading indicators that will lead them down the path to hitting the goals they want. And these are things like how many leads they generated, how many conversions they had, how many of those leads came in for customers, what price did they buy at? Are we starting to sell the lowest possible price package that we've got? And do we need to start changing what we're saying to be able to get people to do 3 days a week instead of 1 day a week? So all the things like that. So the data from that standpoint, from a leading indicator standpoint, is something we spend a ton of time on. Sounds like you do too.
Yeah, 100%. And just for you guys listening, so you what Vince is saying, these are called KPIs, key performance
Yeah.
indicators. So, obviously, you're gonna have a good amount of them in your business, and you want to pay attention to those key KPIs because that's what's going to drive your business. And one thing I like that you said, with the P&L, which is your profit and loss statement, and on your P&L, when you keep score, it's looking at your success. But also, one thing to also understand the P&L, that P&L, that score might not be good for a couple of years. You might be building your business. You might be reinvesting in
Yeah.
infrastructure. There could be so many different things that go on. So understand sometimes, and we can compare this to sports, right? You see teams rebuilding all the time. Sometimes teams will, get to the finals or, right before the finals, they lose. Next year, they'll go back again. They lose again. Next year, they go back. They almost won. They lost again. But then next year, they win the championship. You,
Yep.
you gotta understand that you gotta have patience. And, one thing that, I can tell about you within like 5 seconds of talking to you is just your focus, right? You're very focused. And that's very, very important because there's always a lot of, I was mentored in the early days. I talk about this all the time by Fred DeLuca. He was one of the greatest guys ever, the founder of Subway. Great guy, may he rest in peace. And he always would tell me, like, everyone loves to always chase the shiny objects. There's always going to be lots of shiny
Yeah.
objects around. You got to be focused because, and I'm sure you would agree with this. Everyone, talks about, oh, yeah, I'm going to own this and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do this. First, you got to perfect one thing and be really, really good at it and really successful at it before you start going into other things. Because if you lose focus, and obviously Vince got a lot of focus, but if you lose focus, you will 100% crash and burn. When I hear people tell me they do 7 different things and I see they're like, in their early 30s, I just know for a fact they're not successful because there's no way, unless they would just luckily hit the lotto, it's just not possible. It's like you having someone you're helping with the gym starts out with one gym, and then 3 weeks later they say we're going to buy another gym. Actually, we're going to buy 2 more gyms. Well, first you got to be successful with one before you could be successful with 3, right?
Man, if I had a dollar for every time someone came to me and wanted to open up a second gym,
Oh,
and
100%.
they weren't ready, so 100% focus. And I love to extend on that point. Like I think focus is your ability to say no, right? I think that these opportunities come across every business person. In business is going to have opportunities. Right. There's always going to be things that come up. There's always going to be someone that wants to partner with you and open up a 50,000 square foot sports complex with you, and they see you're doing well. And there will always be opportunities, but I found focus is like, what am I willing to say no to? And I just think that in order to be focused, you need to have your head down and exactly as you said, what's the one thing that you want to grow at this point right now? And then go all in on that. And man, it's such a huge point. And I'll say that of all the things I've helped people do in the gym space in terms of a coaching thing, it's talking people out of stuff that I'm the most proud of. It's
Yeah.
like saying, no, we're not going to do this. And here's why. And the entrepreneurial itch that we all have, it's like sometimes we just want to scratch it. But there's a book that I read called The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. I think it's the best business book ever been written. And he has this line of like, if you took all the bad decisions that you made that cost you a lot of money and erased them, how much money would you actually have? And
Mhm.
the answer is like a
A
lot,
lot.
right? And
A
so
lot.
sometimes it's about just like, don't do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't open the set. So here's an example of this. I had a guy come in and he's sitting at this table that I'm sitting at now. And I do consulting days for gyms. They come in for a full day. And he sits down and he's like, I want to open up another gym. I was like, okay. And I was like, tell me about your first one. And he told me how many members he had. And he told me how many square feet he had. And he told me how much he was charging. And I asked him, I was like, well, when was the last time you got a price increase on your current members? And he's like, I've never done that. I was like, how many people are in a session right now? He's like, 5. I was like, can you fit 10? He's like, yeah. I was like, why don't you? He's, well, because we have so much equipment. And it basically led to the fact that in those 2 moves, in increasing the capacity of his gym by moving some equipment around and elevating his prices, we made just as much money in recurring revenue, all profit in those 2 moves than he would have made with 85 members in a second location. And it was like sometimes, man, like we just have to be shown, as you say, shown the numbers and shown the data and shown what's possible and to maximize what you're currently doing before you go off and make all these crazy expansions because it's sexy, right? You see other people doing it, opening multiple locations and doing all this. And some
Yep.
people should not. Some people aren't ready for it.
I agree. Like, and obviously, we speak a lot of the same language here, but you can just increase people's sessions by one session a week times all your clients. You just
Yeah.
increase massive revenue. You can go through your client list. Let's say you want to do something to your club. You can go through your whole client list and upgrade people who are currently buying on certain packages, upgrade into a bigger package. They'll be burning through their sessions quicker. You'll be bringing in more money. I can sit here for hours and tell you things they could do. Like people need to understand, like there's so much more you can actually milk out of that one location, but people just don't do it. Like I was when I was traveling recently, I can't help myself because I'm just so like crazy like this and just obsessed with it. I just like pay attention to everything. I saw this woman, she was giving out a protein shake to a guy at like the juice bar as I was leaving. And dude, there was like I'd say there was like maybe this much left in the blender, and she just threw it out. Like I was thinking in my head, like, why wouldn't she like scoop it into a cup, give out some free samples, walk around to members? Hey, we got a new protein shake today. Would you like to try it? Like that would have drove me crazy. Like if I owned that gym and I saw that, I would have went nuts. But like little things like that, obviously someone like you can shine light on, which is great. But there is so much. There is always opportunity. Always opportunity. You just got to make it happen. That's it.
Well, yeah, I think you just said something that we glossed over that's really important. Like, and you said it kind of almost like it's not a superpower for you, but it is. And I hear it in your podcast and I see it with you, is that you said this, you pay attention to everything. And like, so
Everything.
I think a big, like when I look at you from what you've created, like it's all about curiosity. Like you have this, it sounds like you have this incredible curiosity for how things connect and how things work. And it was just a one, like I pay attention to everything that really hit me that it's like that's where creativity comes from. I think creativity, we think like, oh, this innovative person. It's like, no, creativity just comes from being observant
I'll
and
give
being
you
curious
I'll
about
give you another
things.
good example because I got really pissed at my friend. She runs it's like a yogurt store, right? And I went in there to just show her some love and support. And I go in there and she's got all products, like she's like, selling there, like, she created like these sauces, like kind of like caramel and whatever she's selling them, right? Like when I tell you I couldn't handle it, they're all like off in angles a little bit. You can't see the name. I literally said, let me come here. Let me show you something. Come here. And she came around the counter. I said, this is unacceptable. I literally sat there and straightened every single one. I made her take out every single one. There was a lot of them. I said, everyone needs to look like this, straight. They need to see it. And when they pull that one out, this one falls down and the next one is straight. And you need to check these every hour. She's like, every hour? I was like, yeah, because someone might come in there, play with it and move it around, and you're losing an opportunity because that's marketing right there. Someone might be like, oh, great. But like those type of things, you need to be obsessed with those type of things. Like when I tell you you can eat off the floors in our vans, you can eat off the floors in my world headquarters. And that's a standard, but like these are things people need to understand because it starts at the top, right? And if you're not a good leader and you're not leading by example or setting an example, like I'll give you a good example. The other day, that someone like was using the shredder and there was like a little speck of paper on the floor. I made sure 4 people saw me. I took Scotch tape, right, wrapped it around my finger, and I started picking it all up on the floor because it's just that's just unacceptable. But people know that. That's why if you go into the bathroom in my place or you go into the kitchen, you will never find a wet counter. People wipe the counters down, but it starts up here, right?
Yeah.
So, and you're running a business, same rules apply. But when I say I pay attention to everything, you want everyone else to pay attention to everything, right? I'll take phone calls sometimes, and I'm sure you would like this too, because and this all ties into everything you're doing and people who are running their business. But I'll take a phone call because I'm always walking. I stand up all the time, always moving around. I'll pick up garbage outside my building, just on a phone call, and I'll throw it out, and people see me. I never tell people to pick up garbage, but I notice trainers picking up vans. They'll pick up garbage and walk it all the way over. And Vince, it's not like a 2 steps. It's like a good walk to the other side, and they'll throw it in the dumpster. I notice people doing it all the time. So these type of things are very important in business, because that's what's going to help grow your business. And obviously, from the perception of people who are coming into your facility, they're going to be like, wow, like the standards here are so high, you know?
Yeah, no, and I think too, circling this back to marketing is paying attention to everything. Well, that includes paying attention to what your customers say. And I found that some of the best marketing that I've ever done has not been what I've read about in a book or what I've saw online or anything else. Some of the best marketing has come from what my customers have told me. And
Listening.
so
Yep.
the one story I have from this is I had a guy, it was his 60th birthday, and he came up and he's like, "Hey Vince, it's my 60th birthday today, and I want to tell you, I feel better at 60 than I did at 50." And I was like,
Mm.
bam. And I like stopped. And I was like, go. I went and got a piece of paper and I wrote it down. And I was like, that was the headline of the ad that he wrote, and that I feel better at 60 than I did at 50. So some of the marketing messages, and this is where like what you said is perfect. I pay attention to everything, right? So sometimes the best things that you need to do to keep clients, the best things you need to do to get new clients are all right in front of you. You don't need to go anywhere except inside your own homes of your customers and listen to what they're saying. And next level is starting to extract it. Next level is starting to hunt for it and to actually specifically ask people questions to get the answers that you might want to hear. So I love that line that you said, pay attention to everything.
Yeah, everything. That's across the board, man. Right? The way you do one thing is how you do everything, and that's very, very important. But listen, I'm getting ready to wrap this up. This has been an incredible episode. But one question I always like to ask when I finish an episode is there something? What would you have asked that I didn't ask?
What would I have asked? I think that I don't teach a lot of this on the front end, right? Most of the stuff that my content that owner and we put out there is a lot about making more money, getting new clients, because I know that's what people want. But on
Yep.
the inside, I talk a lot about the head stuff, a lot about the mindset of
Well,
a business owner, right? And so I would say that the my one of my most quoted lines is from Tony Robbins, and he says the number one chokehold on a business is the psychology of the owner,
hmm couldn't. I
right?
never heard that before. That's 100% correct.
And so like if that is true, well, man, that's something to work on. Your own head, your own mind, because you said it before, like it all starts at the top. And if your mind is out of whack, then it's most likely the people below you are going to be out of whack too, and your customers are going to feel it as well. And I found that this is like we're not going to live a bit, especially in business. No one's going to live a life problem free, and you are especially not going to live a life in business problem free. So I think the first thing is getting better at how you're handling when problems and challenges occur, and being able to stay calm under pressure. Like the best piece of parenting advice I've ever gotten was in a book called Scream Free Parenting. And it basically said your number one job in a parenting situation when you're working with your child is to keep your heart rate lower than your kids. And so it's like, if you can learn through challenging and stressful situations, which are going to happen and going to occur, and you can learn how to keep yourself calm, you will make better decisions. And our
hmm
lives are shaped by the decisions that we make. There's nothing else that shaped our lives except the choices that we've made. And so if you can get better at making decisions and making choices through being clearer because your body is more calm, man, that's a skill, to work on. So there's all kinds of different things I teach, but I would say like that's one thing that we can't talk about entrepreneurship without talking about controlling the mind and doing your best and doing the things that you personally need to do. Like some people don't need to meditate, other people do. Some people don't need biofeedback or breathing drills. Some people do. And I think what you got to do is identify what is the thing that's going to keep you the calmest under pressure so you can make better decisions. And that would be like maybe the one question I would have asked.
That is very powerful, and very true. And I talk about it all the time. I say business, even life, is about 90% mindset. That literally
Yeah.
like that much, like that. That is how important it is. And without it, you're gonna crash and crumble, and you'll never succeed. So very,
Yeah.
very good. But so listen, if someone wants to join your group, someone wants to learn more about you, where can they find you? Learn about your coaching.
Yep. Yeah. Everything would be on vincegabriel.com is my website. and they can get access. I have a podcast too, so they can get access to the podcast as well. And I have books that they can download for free on the website as well. I've written about 3 or 4 different books that, marketing, sales, hiring, all that stuff for specific for gyms. But your audience would definitely get a lot out of them reading it. So VinceGabriele.com is where everything's at.
Fantastic. Well, Vince, thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. This was an incredible episode. And guys, obviously, if you're looking to learn more about how to grow a gym or, get into business and start a gym, Vince is your guy. Until next time, guys, remember, subscribe, leave a review, fuel your drive. See ya. Legend. Do you know my name? My name is Legend.